Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making old-fashioned potato candy. Now, I'm really excited about this recipe. This year is the first time I've got to make this in a very long time. And it's because when I first got married, my husband said that his favorite Christmas candy was peanut butter pinwheels. So I got the recipe that he liked. It's the one with the syrup where you boil the syrup and you mix in the powdered sugar and all that stuff. And it takes a long time. You're dealing with a hot syrup and it's very, very tricky. This recipe though, we are going to make these beautiful peanut butter pinwheels that come out absolutely perfect and they're all rolled up nice and you literally can't tell the difference. And we're making them with a potato, powdered sugar, and peanut butter, and that's literally all you need. And this recipe is so much easier than the other one. You are going to be amazed if you've made peanut butter pinwheels with the syrup. You do have to have a plain russet potato, what my granny called an originated. This won't work with other kinds of potatoes, and if you do get it to work, it's not going to work quite as good. You want a plain old russet potato, and a potato this size will make 3 or 4 logs, pinwheel logs like this. It'll make 3 or 4 times this much, so you don't need much potato at all. And what you're going to do is you're going to peel your potato, put it in water, and boil it. Just plain water. And you want to cook it until it's really, really done. And that's what I've done here. This is just a potato in boiling water, but you want it to be soft like that. It should fall apart. And then you're going to drain it. Now, after you've drained it, you want to mash it up really, really good. And I'm using a wire strainer, and I'm just going to take a spoon and mash my potato through the strainer. You don't have to do this. You can mix it with an electric mixer. You can even squeeze it up with your hands if you want to. But I have found when I was making this that the wire strainer works much easier and it makes sure that there is absolutely no lumps left in it. And you're going to kind of need this, so even if there is a lump left in it, it's not that picky, so it's not going to make a huge difference in the final product. I just think that doing this saves you some time in the end. Alright, I have got plenty here, so I'm just going to scoop this off. I've probably got enough here to at least do 2 of these potato logs already, or candy logs. Alright. Now our potatoes good and mashed up. I have seen people measure this several different ways. I do for a single log, and you can multiply the recipe and do as much as you want to, but I do about 4 tablespoons once I've mashed it of potato. And I'm going to save this because here's another trick to this. With this recipe, it is so forgiving. Once we start mixing this together, if it starts to get too dry, we can add in a little more potato. And I've seen recipes where people make this and they add a little milk into it, like a tablespoon of milk. I've never done that, and I think that's probably just to adjust the consistency. And if mine gets a little dry, I just add in a little more potato. Now, I will tell you this. I said you can make it with the powdered sugar, just a regular old russet potato, and peanut butter. It has a much better flavor if you have vanilla and you add just a half a teaspoon of vanilla, and if you add just a tiny pinch of salt. And I'm not talking much salt at all. You just want a pinch. So I'm going to go ahead and do a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And it also tastes much more like the syrup candy if you put a little vanilla in it. But this was a Depression era recipe, and during the Depression and the way times are now, just this little pinch of salt. Not everybody has the money to afford vanilla right now. And during the Depression, not everybody had the money to afford vanilla. So if you don't have it, you can make it without it, and it's still a very good candy. Okay, now, this is almost like magic. And this is another good one that you can make with the kids because you're not dealing with that hot syrup, you know, having to stand at the stove and stir it. And you can even let your potato cool down before you start working with it so there's nothing to get burned. But we're just going to add in about a cup of our powdered sugar. And I've got about 3.5 cups here. I might not use all of this, but you want to have about 3.5 cups per log you're making. And you just start stirring it. Now, I was making this over here yesterday, and Alex was watching me, and she's watched me make the syrup candy for years. And David made the syrup candy at yesteryear, and because he was learning how to cook, it failed about as often as it succeeded. And look at what this is doing. It's literally liquefying. It's a reaction between the sugar, the powdered sugar, and the starch in the potato. And what you have right now is what you have when you get done with that syrup. Only you're not having a rush. You're not having a hurry. There was no heating it to the exact temperature, standing there with candy thermometers. It really doesn't matter if it's raining or not, or, you know, how humid it is in the house. You don't have to deal with any of that when you're doing the potato candy. And I tried to research this recipe to see where it came from, and it came from this area. There's nobody who is actually given credit with it. It was probably the Irish immigrants who settled in the Southern Appalachian Mountains, but it dates back, as best anybody can tell, to the Depression. So some little hillbilly woman in her kitchen figured out that you could do this. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. And Alex was watching this, and she saw how much liquid that made. There's no liquid in there. There's just that little bit of mashed potato and the powdered sugar. And she goes, "Oh, that's some kind of magic." It almost is some kind of magic. And it's so much easier, you won't even believe it. And now I'm going to add most of my sugar. Not all of it, most of it. And I'm going to stir it in. And like I said, if you add too much sugar, you can add in a little more potato and work it in. And it will moisten it back up. So it's not like the syrup stuff. If you add in too much sugar, you've either got to throw it away or you've got to live with the crumbles. What you want to do with the sugar is you want to work this until it gets about the consistency of Play-Doh. And I am going to use my hands to mix it some. And like I said, you can mix this with an electric mixer, especially with a stand mixer with a paddle on it. I kind of like working it with my hands. Usually if I'm making bread or rolls or something for me and Brett, I'll knead those with my hand instead of kneading them with the stand mixer. It's kind of a relaxing part of cooking. Okay, now I'm definitely going to need a little more powdered sugar because you can see there it's still way too runny to work with it. And it's a long way from Play-Doh. If you have trouble with the syrup candies, this is going to be a Christmas miracle for you. Of course, I guess everybody has trouble with the syrup candies. I mean, there's just so many factors that affect it. And this really, it's so easy, and you can work with it. You can change it. If it gets too dry, you add more potato. If it's too wet, you add more powdered sugar. About the only way you could mess it up is use the wrong kind of potato or the wrong kind of sugar. And this is just regular old powdered sugar in the bag. You don't want to use granulated sugar, and you don't want to use brown sugar. Sometimes this is called icing sugar or confectioner sugar. but that's what you want. And it has cornstarch in it. That's what gives it that white color. Okay, we're getting closer, but we're still not to that dough stage yet that we want. And you just add it a little bit at a time until you start to get that dough, and then you're going to knead it a little bit. I want to thank all of y'all who asked for this recipe, because like I said, I've been doing the syrup stuff pretty much ever since I've been married. My husband said it was his favorite Christmas candy, so I got the recipe and that's what I made. And I haven't had this since I was a little girl. And it's one of those recipes that not many people wrote down because it was so simple. Women would just make it year after year and not write it down. Okay, I'm starting to get a dough now, but this still isn't stiff enough to roll up and actually form into the candy rolls, because you have to be able to spread your peanut butter on it and then roll it up. Okay, now it's starting to form a ball, and that's what I want. At this point, working on a piece of parchment paper or a piece of wax paper will save you a whole lot of cleanup time. Again, it's something that you don't have to have, but it does make the job a little bit easier. Because who wants to clean powdered sugar off your countertop? Okay, I've got a pretty good dough ball going here, so I'm going to put it out on my parchment paper. But I'm going to put a pretty heavy layer of powdered sugar out before I put it out, because like I said, I want to knead it just a little bit with my hands. I've stirred it quite a bit with this, and you can do it, you know, in your stand mixer or with a hand mixer if you want to. I just kind of like to work with it. It's one of those things, you know, it takes a minute, but it's kind of relaxing. Put a little more powdered sugar on top of it, because it is still pretty sticky right now. And keep sprinkling a little bit of powdered sugar as long as you need it. It's still really sticky. It is getting less sticky, and I want to keep working it and playing with it here until it will come off of my hands. That way I'll know that it's stiff enough that when I roll it up, it's going to hold its shape. I know we've all had peanut butter pinwheels, and those of you who make potato candy, you've probably had potato candy, or you've probably eaten it that somebody else has made, and it just smooshes down and it's real thin, and it doesn't hold that round shape. Well, that's because it wasn't worked quite enough, and maybe it didn't have quite enough powdered sugar in it. Okay, now I have something that is pretty much the consistency of Play-Doh, and it's starting to pull off my hands, and it's smooth. So what I want to do is I want to put a little bit more powdered sugar on my paper, because I want to make sure I have enough down so it doesn't stick. It's always going to be sticky when you're making this, but it should be like Play-Doh. And when you work it, if you have any potato lumps in it, that will get the potato lumps out. But if you use that strainer method where you mash the potato through the strainer, you're not going to have any lumps at all. So put this down on your paper and kind of get it in a rectangle shape, which I didn't do before I put it down there, because you want to roll this out in a rectangle. Now, how big you roll it is really up to you. It just depends on how fat you want your potato log to be, or your candy log to be. Put a little powdered sugar on your rolling pin, and then just roll very carefully. Until you get it about 1/4 of an inch thick. Now, I've seen a lot of folks roll this out and then they'll cut the edge off and make the edges perfectly smooth before they roll it up. I don't do that. I kind of do try to square up the edges just a little bit, straighten them up after I've rolled it out. But I just use my finger and do that. And then kind of mash it back into as much of a rectangle as I can get. You can roll it out a little thinner if you want to, but the thinner you get it, the more likely it's going to be to crack. So about 1/4 of an inch is as thin as you want to go. And how much peanut butter you use is kind of up to you. I use anywhere between 1/4 and 1/3 of a cup per candy log or candy roll. You can use more, you can use less. Like I said, it's just up to you. And that's one of the things that's so great about this recipe. You don't even have to measure anything. You adjust the potato and the powdered sugar until you get it the right consistency. You just need kind of basic measurements to get started with so you know how much you're going to need. And you want about 4 tablespoons of your mashed potato. And like I said, I don't pack it, and I use 3.5. I think this time it took me like almost 4 cups of powdered sugar to get it the right consistency. But how much moisture is in your potato is going to affect that. So, you know, you want to adjust it between 3 to 4 cups, something like that. Just get it to that Play-Doh consistency. And it really is almost impossible to have this fail, because you can keep playing with it until you get it right. You're not on that limit, that time limit that you are when you're working with that hot syrup. Said I like to be pretty generous with the peanut butter. And how big you roll this out, again, is something, it's your call. The wider it is, the farther from the where you're rolling it up to from the front to the back is going to give you more layers. If you make it skinnier, you're going to have a really skinny candy log, and it's going to be like a single roll of peanut butter and candy. So, you know, if you want a really thick peanut butter roll this out much longer and roll it over more times. It's just kind of all what look you want, what taste you want. And the texture, you can play with it until you get it just right. And something else that's cool about these that you don't get when you do the syrup, like my refrigerator is packed because we've gone into full holiday baking mode around here. Charlotte was over and we made some cookies. We made gingerbread and chocolate chip, and then Alex came over and we made fudge and more chocolate chip and Christmas cookies, you know, the frosted Christmas cookies and thumbprint cookies and stuff. So I've got it pretty much loaded. And when I put this one, we made this yesterday, when I put it in the refrigerator, it got a little bit smushed. Even after this has been in the refrigerator, you can shape it just a little bit. Now, you can't do a ton with it, but you can shape it just a little bit and round it back up a little bit. You can't do that with the stuff that you make with the syrup. Anyways, once you got your peanut butter on, you can leave a little bit, you know, like not go right up to the edge that you're rolling it to. But again, that's up to you, because all it's going to do is it's going to give you like a peanut butter stripe down the outside if you get it on the edge, and that doesn't bother me. You just want to very carefully start rolling this up off your paper. And like I said, the paper really helps with this. It makes it much easier than if you do it on the countertop. And if you've got one of those little dough blades, you can use that to kind of help release it from the paper if you're having problems. Sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. It does help if you lift up the edge of your paper. And you just real slow work your way from one side to the other and roll it up. Okay, And once you get it all rolled, see the edge of my peanut butter's peeking out under there, I can feel it. You want to roll it up and put it in the refrigerator for 2-3 hours, maybe even a little bit longer, until it is good and firm. And then you slice it and serve it, and that's all there is to it. And you can wrap it up in this paper that you use to roll it out on. You can wrap it up in plastic wrap, just whatever. But just wrap it up in something kind of airtight. And if you wrap it up in this, you can roll it back, and it kind of helps it hold its shape. And in 2 or 3 hours, you'll have a nice firm peanut butter log just like this that you can slice and you can serve, and nobody's going to know that you didn't stand over the stove and cook for hours cooking that syrup. Nobody's going to know you didn't struggle to get it just the right temperature. You didn't fight the humidity and all that stuff, because it literally tastes the same. I told y'all this was Brett's favorite candy when we met, and I got the recipe. Well, the stuff with the syrup. He said that was his favorite candy recipe. I got the recipe. I've made that stuff for at least 33 years out of the 35 years we've been married. And I made this year thanks to all y'all who asked for the recipe, and he loves it. He said it's as good as the stuff where you fight the syrup. So give this one a try. It's really, really easy. It's fun and easy to make with the kids. They'll like playing in it with their hands. And you don't have to worry about them getting burned. It's another really good one, and it's also another one that really, there's no way to mess it up, because if you don't have that consistency, you can take your time and work with it until you get it, and until you get it perfect. And you know, once it's in the fridge, it's firm, it's set up, you can slice it, you can serve it. It'll keep in the fridge for a week or two. And you can sit it out on the table, you know, and serve it for several days. You can even ship this, you know, slice it up and wrap it up. Just make sure it's wrapped up airtight when you ship it, because it will tend to dry out. There's no milk in this to spoil or anything like this, so this is actually a better one to leave sitting out than a lot of the candies that have milk and stuff in them. There's no chocolate to melt. So if you wanted to slice this and leave it sitting out on your table and just cover it with something so people could get it as they come by, it's great for that. I'm going to clean off my hands, and I got to say thank you to some, or I want to say thank you to some folks. I've got some really cool gifts and a ton of cards. Look at all these cards. I checked the mailbox on Friday, I think, the post office box. A lot of you have asked about an address, and you said the only address says business inquiries. The business consists of me and Brett. That's it. Some folks think that we're part of a corporation, or we're affiliated with somebody else or something. The Hillbilly Kitchen is me, and Brett edits my videos. Some of you have been talking to my daughter Melinda, my youngest daughter, on Parlor and Facebook, and we're both trying to figure out but she's been talking to some of y'all on Parlor, I know, and on Facebook. But the business address is the address. There's, you know, nothing. It's just us. There's no staff, no warehouse, no company. But anyway, I'm trying to return all of your cards, and all of these have been returned, and the ones that I showed you in the previous video, but a couple of them didn't have any return address. This beautiful card here is from Rob and Liz in Kentucky. There's no return address, but thank you for the card. And this one was from Portland, from Susie. No return address. Thank you, Susie. And a lot of you wrote really nice notes in your cards. I love those. Thank you so much. This is from Vicky. There's a note. This one here is from Randy and Kelly, and it actually has their family photo in it. And they live pretty close, so maybe we'll get to meet sometime. Thank you so much, guys. This is lovely, and I enjoyed your note. This is from Jody. Sherry, thank you. Joe. Teresa. Nancy, that's a beautiful one, thank you. Donnie, and thank you, Donnie. I can read it. Oh, this is from Kathy. If y'all remember Faz, she won the pizza oven that we gave away. She told me, I don't know if I should tell this or not, but she said that was a pet name that her husband gave her when they first met. And I believe she told me they had been married longer than Brett and I, and he still calls her that. So that's so cute. Marie wrote a very nice note. Thank you. Roxanne in California. We really got cards from all over the country. Mary. Beth. Oh, this one is real cute. I'm gonna have to up my card game next year and shop harder for cards. This is from Vicky. Isn't that cute? It's got like a little charm in it. And Vicky wrote a note. Oh. This one was from Savannah. And there's a nice note in there. Becky. Craig and Gina, they're from New York. And I got a nice note from Beverly. And what I do with all these, I'm going to put a picture in the video, is I tape them all around my front door. And I want you all to know that I will keep these cards for the rest of my life. One of the things my children have to look forward to when I pass away, they're going to have to go through stacks and stacks and stacks of Christmas cards. I literally have every Christmas card I have ever received in a box. So thank you all, and they will be displayed on my door until after Christmas. I also want to thank Abby. Abby sent me this. I didn't even know these things existed. It's called a spill stopper, and you put it on top of your pot, and it keeps your pot from boiling over, and you can use it as a colander to drain whatever you're cooking when you get done. Like if you're cooking potatoes or pasta or something. That is so neat. I had no idea that even existed. And dear Vanessa has been shopping again. Thank you so much, Vanessa. She got me some real large. She found it on Amazon. And she got me this candle warmer over here that I'm using today with some orange cinnamon roll wax. And it smells so good. And it's just adorable with the little rooster on it. But she got me this. And I opened this and Brett and I both died laughing. Every meal you make, every bite you take, I'll be watching you. Is that not just too funny? And heaven knows we all need something to laugh at these days. Before we go, I want to leave y'all with a little something because this will be our last video until after Christmas. I'll see y'all again right after Christmas. And I'm going to go check the mailbox again tomorrow. All these Christmas cards, you're going to get one back from me. But if I haven't gotten your card yet, you'll get it after Christmas. I'm sorry. But Luke 2:14 says, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." More than ever, this Christmas, pray for our nation, pray for our leaders, and pray for each other. And my prayer for you is that God will quiet you with His peace, comfort you with His presence, and bless you with His love. Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Hillbilly Kitchen this year. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.